Welcome to this nonprofit podcast NewsPod. This is a dedicated NewsPod, the fourth in a series of 5 specifically addressing our Sacramento Region Community Foundation's Big Day of Giving, or, as we are continuing to say, BDOG. I'm joined with Kelly Siefkin, Chief Philanthropy Officer with the Community Foundation. Kelly, welcome.
Hi, good to see you.
Likewise. And today, what I'm really excited about, we're talking about something in trends. What are we seeing in philanthropy? What's happening? What's going on in what people are demonstrating through giving? Get us started.
There are a lot of trends in philanthropy right now. It's exciting because I think things ebb and flow, and there's some really interesting ones that we're paying attention to. One is a rise in trust-based philanthropy, and that's much more of a buzzword. It's a belief that the nonprofit that you choose to support meets the requirement of doing the work. So I think you have to think about it as trusting them to do them and releasing control or expectations. I like to do an analogy of flying. When I get on the plane, I let the pilot do his or her job. When I go shopping, I buy the clothing that's available on the rack, not go into the back and ask them to make me something special. So really believing that the nonprofit knows what the challenges are and how to address those, and trusting them with your philanthropic dollar. I think another one is younger donors looking for engagement. And I think there's the different types of engagement that are so interesting. I think volunteerism combined with crowdfunding. I think gone are the days of people just mailing in a check and being done with it. I mean, don't get me wrong, Jeff, writing checks is still really, really critical and an important part for nonprofit organization remaining high.
Still works just fine.
Yeah, but more people want to give in more than one way. So that's kind of something interesting that we have been noticing. Another one is the great wealth transfer. I know that people have been talking about this for some time now, but we're seeing this huge number of baby boomers. They're really expected to leave trillions of dollars when they pass, and much of it will go to their children, but not all of it. Much of this wealth is going to go to nonprofit organizations. There's huge tax advantages, for anyone who is thinking about leaving dollars to their children. If they want to avoid some inheritance taxes, there's some great opportunities by working with nonprofits. I think women in philanthropy. Now, we know that women on average live longer than men, and increasingly are increasing their earning potential. So these disposable dollars are really a potential source of philanthropy. And for decades, women have usually shaped philanthropic decision-making for the household. But now the amount is going up thanks to sort of longevity and higher income that we're seeing. A big one is DAFs. Those are the donor advised funds. Donor Advised Fund is a charitable fund. It's either expendable, which means liquid, or it's endowed in perpetuity, where only a portion of that can be spent. And whoever holds the fund, like a local community foundation, will invest and grow those dollars for the donor. Then the donor advises or selects organizations where they'd like to send funds. The community foundation then sends those dollars out stat. But I wanted to share some statistics from the National Philanthropic Trust. Contributions from DAFs, $85.53 billion. That's an all-time high and a 9% increase from 2 years prior. DAFs are the fastest growing charitable giving vehicle in the United States because it's one of the easiest and most tax advantageous ways to give. So donor advised funds are everywhere. Another one that I thought I would share is, unlike the very common phrase, cash may no longer be king. When it comes to philanthropy, we're seeing a rise in non-cash assets. Looking at sort of the IRS non-cash asset donations really has increased over the last few years. I think stocks, homes, securities, property, vehicles, commercial building, land, all of the things that are not stored in your bank account are things that more donors are making contributions with to support nonprofit organizations. Workplace giving is also changing. I think a lot of combined campaigns that used to exist now are very much replaced by individual matching from a company or incentivizing or other maybe socially responsible initiatives. So I think that has to do a lot post-COVID with people gathering less at their work to maybe learn about opportunities. And that really, I think, dovetails into crowdfunding as well. Crowdfunding has slowed slightly since its boom in COVID. It hasn't gone away, but like all things, philanthropy has these trends, and crowdfunding is a little bit less hot right now, but we'll see what comes out of that shortly. Another one I wanted to mention was board membership. Mm-hmm. It looks a little bit different in terms of recruitment than it may have done in days past. A lot of boards used to be invite only, and some still are. But more than ever before, I think organizations are grateful when a caring and committed individual comes and volunteers to serve on their board. So I think a lot of nonprofit organizations like when a CEO of a company can serve, but you don't actually have to be the number one for a board opportunity anymore. I think it's really important to engage younger and growing leaders within companies, and board membership is a great place to do that with nonprofits. I'd like to end with QCDs, if I may. I know more acronyms, but
please do tell.
A QCD is a qualified charitable distribution. And anyone who's taking a required minimum distribution out of their IRA after age 70 and a half is able to take a portion of that and give it directly to a nonprofit organization to avoid having that count as taxable income. So a lot of people are paying attention to that. If they're already philanthropic and are going to grant money to those organizations, they're skipping the step of it coming to them, landing as income, then writing a check, paying tax on that, and sending it out. Anyone who is doing a required minimum distribution has these opportunities to do a QCD, and it's fantastic. We're seeing QCDs everywhere, fueling the great work in our community.
And these are all the positive forward trends, whether they're aggressively trending like a hockey stick or even if they're just trending upward.
Yeah.
The value to many nonprofits in these cases, too, is that these are unrestricted funds, so they can use them in any way, shape, or form that they see the best use of, as you mentioned, in trust-based philanthropy. But many of these are and can be unrestricted, which is so challenging for many nonprofits when they get these criteria, like a grant might have, the borders on what they can do and the confinements of what they can do. They still need to operate the organization.
And I think it's really important when we talk about trust-based philanthropy, more companies that are giving grants or groups that are making grants, that we're hopefully seeing a reduction in the challenges that it takes to apply for those things and leaning into trust-based philanthropy. Because at the end of the day, philanthropy gives you the power as an individual donor to create change. That's what you get to do with your philanthropy. How it's done is up to the nonprofit organization doing the work. So meeting in the middle, however you're going to give those dollars, letting the nonprofit really achieve that as necessary is truly the best of both worlds.
And I loved your analogy about the plane. You're not going to go to the pilot and say, I'm going to tell you how to fly this thing. Here's what I'm going to do with the money. It'd be like saying, hey, I want to just give my money to the tires.
Exactly.
Well, but the tires aren't going to get you from point A to point B. You want the plane to get you from point A to point B. How you do that, I don't care. Just make it happen.
You got it.
So on the moving forward side, that's what we just discussed on the trends. What are some of the barriers to philanthropy? What are we seeing today that are some of the roadblocks where people are questioning? What's happening there?
I think the very first one is perception. And a lot of people think that philanthropy is for Daddy Warbucks or Oprah or the Rockefellers or that Monopoly guy. People think I'm not a philanthropist. I don't even own a monocle or a top hat. And I think this is one that we need to help everybody get past. We need to help change the perception because philanthropy is doing good. And everybody can do that in our community. So I think we have to make philanthropy accessible to everyone, which is what Big Day of Giving comes in and does with a $10 minimum gift each year. But also the belief that you can do it in any way that is meaningful for you. So changing perception is the first start. The second one is money. A lot of people feel that major gifts are out of their league. Maybe they're carrying around student loans, or they have a new mortgage that they're paying, or they don't earn enough to care yet about tax breaks. But I want people to realize that the philanthropy is very personal. So I don't want the number of zeros on the gift to impede anyone. I want everyone to just start giving. Another one that I hear time and time again is time. I'm busy, family or school or work or whatever. Maybe you already volunteer and your schedule is busy, or you need a break from volunteering. I hear that one as well. Or maybe board service seems terrifying. I understand that people's calendars are booked, but I always encourage people to flip the script and figure out, how you can get more out of this. I think it's like life. What you're putting into it's what you're getting out of it. Because I think a lot of barriers are things like, how do I work with my boss? And time away will only create a problem. But how can you create good for your community that really fills you and makes you a greater player? So, fold it into what you're already doing, or considering what you could do without, and make a little bit of an exchange. Another one is that it's complicated.
So much. I have to do all this work to get there.
I know. And nonprofits can make it hard to give. There are a lot of options. And there are thousands of deserving nonprofits in our region. And I think that there's a lot of unfamiliar lingo and acronyms, and I'll speak for industry and I'll say I'm sorry for that. We're working on it. But maybe you've looked into setting up your own private foundation before, or, but then there's that idea of like, I have to do one more set of taxes, and then I would need to have someone manage it, and then it feels overwhelming. I really encourage you to reach out to the community foundation, a professional advisor, and find out how it doesn't have to be complicated. Find out how you can streamline it. We talked a little bit earlier about donor advised funds. The reason they're so popular is they make giving easy. I think when people set up a donor advised fund, they're shocked that they basically have a charitable checking account that they can draw from. They don't have to track down receipts. Someone else, the foundation, is making sure that everyone is in good standing, doing all the administration. It doesn't have to be complicated. One of them is the old WIFM, what's in it for me? And I think if you approach philanthropy with this as your only question, you actually might not get very far. But if it's a barrier to you, I encourage you to think about it from a perspective on how it might improve our community. I think a lot of people want a very robust economy, and maybe you want to solve a local challenge. So one idea is maybe you're going to provide some lunches for communities with promise, and that really leads to greater school attendance, and potentially that leads to greater graduation rate, and that gets something cooking where more and more individuals are coming back and contributing to the community in a really positive way. And I think you have to understand that what's in it for me needs not to be dollar for dollar, but dollar for this community. The lack of impact insight. And I've been there. I support a lot of individual organizations. I really get this one. This is the belief that my money maybe won't make a difference for this huge problem, or I can't see the difference that my money is making. It's one of those two things. And I can understand how people think that, but I wonder if it's actually true. And that comes from our hyperlocal example of Big Day of Giving. We raised $13.8 million on Big Day of Giving last year, and tens of thousands of donors turned out and gave a contribution to their favorite nonprofit organization. More than half were $50 or less. Well, let you think about that just for a minute. It's a lot of small gifts making a huge collective impact. And then finally, I think another barrier for folks is they don't want others to know. And that sounds more like a preference to me than a barrier, but I understand that everybody responds to FOMO. So my suggestion is that giving should feel good. If you don't want anyone to know that you're kind, generous, thoughtful, community-minded person, that's fine. Anonymity is available, and nonprofits want to keep you as donors, so they're motivated to respect your wishes.
Sure. Whatever it takes to make you feel good.
Exactly.
Absolutely comply. Big Day of Giving. How does it address these issues?
Well, I think the big one is that unrestricted is the hallmark of Big Day of Giving. That's the core of trust-based philanthropy. Mm-hmm. All dollars raised, every single dollar raised for Big Day of Giving is unrestricted. So I think Big Day of Giving really, really lifts up that to the start. That $10 minimum gift really lowers the threshold and provides accessibility. So hopefully we're addressing the perception one and the money one. Big Day of Giving now accepts stocks, through donor advice funds, through QCDs. So cash is actually no longer the only giving vehicle, which is really exciting. People can think about their contributions for Big Day of Giving in a new way. We hope that we've removed the complication. While there are many, we have tools to help you sort by mission category or by zip code if you want to support organizations in your neighborhood. We can minimize the number that you have to choose from, which is great. You can also give anonymously, which is wonderful. Plus, there's kind of an interesting opportunity that you can sign up and pledge volunteer hours for Big Day of Giving. So hopefully we're addressing some of those barriers and meeting those top trends in philanthropy.
And there's one last piece of this conversation that I do want you to address. For those who maybe really just don't have the ability to give, and I mean in money, in monetary contribution, there's still ways they can participate in Big Day of Giving, correct?
Absolutely. And I think the very biggest one is to spread the word. We provide a variety of tools for anyone to share on their social media or with their friends. There are so many ways that you can let the world know that Big Day of Giving is going on. And if you don't have the opportunity to give, you actually can create a page where you highlight your favorite nonprofit or nonprofits and spread the word and invite others to give. And you can actually track and see how much was raised due to your promotion. So there's so many ways. If giving financially is not an option this year, work with Big Day of Giving to figure out there's ways that you can also spread the word.
That's wonderful, because I know there's a lot of people, maybe they're just apprehensive and maybe they just want to get their feet wet this year as they look forward to what next year could be for them. And there's so many issues and reason why people may not be able to, given circumstances that we don't know at this point in time. But it does give them the ability to participate, to say, yes, they were a part of it. And they saw this community philanthropically step up to raise all this money, and they still were involved. So that's really encouraging. And again, I would imagine that that's the same website. You want to give that one more time before we wrap?
BigDayofGiving.org. And I challenge everyone, if they're capable of making that $10 gift, to consider it on Big Day of Giving, because thanks to Western Health Advantage and a few other companies, we have prizes to boost your gift. And that carries a lot of weight. You can make a $10 gift and your nonprofit might be able to win an additional $500.
In some cases, that's just one drink at your favorite coffee shop.
Exactly.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much. I really appreciate the information. The trending is really helpful to understand where things are going for some of those who are a little bit more sophisticated in their giving, as well as for those who are first-time givers coming into Big Day of Giving. So thank you for all that information, and we will put all the details in terms of links in the show notes as well.
See you at Big Day of Giving.
Thanks for listening. If you like our program, please subscribe, give us a positive review, and share with somebody you know. This nonprofit podcast NewsPod is a production of Hear Me Now Studio.